been acting up lately, so I'll do my best. So as Jan said, we've known each other for quite a long time. It's got to be like 17 years now, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think. Yeah. And so she actually got to see the birth of this place, the process of this place being built and started and all that good stuff. But she had the opportunity to work here, to pour some beers for customers and participate with that. But basically, I've been going strong now for 6 years. So we started in 2013, but it actually started probably about 5-6 years prior to that. So it started with kind of a dream and a vision of mine. I was in school for business management at Rasmussen College. I kind of had this pipe dream of wanting to start a pub. And then a good friend of mine and myself, we got into craft beer. The craft beer boom was kind of just kicking off. And we started getting into the whole craft beer scene and whatnot. And we decided we should try brewing our own beer. And then we kind of started from there. And hobby quickly turned to passion. And I kind of melded the two, my dream, my vision of wanting to start a pub, melded those two together of my passion of brewing, and got started that way. I graduated school, but during that time, I was able to surround myself with like-minded people that were already in the industry. I was fortunate enough to meet somebody that was in the restaurant industry at that time, and he kind of took me under his wing and mentored me for a few years, and we're still good friends to this day. But he really mentored me in a way that school couldn't really teach me some of the things. It was more like street smarts versus book smarts, but it was very helpful. And I'm very fortunate to have had that connection with him. But he took me under his wing, mentored me, and showed me some really good things to help me not only get started, but keep going as once the business gets up and going. So yeah, I don't know. I like to answer questions and then answer that way. There's not much of a story other than I had a dream and a vision, and I kind of just decided this is what I wanted to do. And I did a lot of pushing and didn't give up, that's for sure. So if anybody has any questions, and then we can delve further into the story and the process and things like that, if whatever you guys are interested in knowing.
So,
Andrew, you got a question? Go ahead.
all right. So I don't know if you have you said that he has the questions probably that everybody submitted, but as I just submitted mine, I can keep it a bit. So my first question would be, so you're a local brew, you have a local brewery in what town was it again?
Buffalo.
Buffalo. That's nice.
Yep.
So you guys make your own microbrews, also supply to other companies? For example, like if there's a liquor store in town, do you supply your distillate as well?
Yep. Yeah. So just this last year, back in November, we made a decision to get into more distribution, and so that was one of our decisions. You know, with trying to, since we started, I've tried to do some type of expansion every year, whether it be large expansion, small expansion, whether it's expanding our footprint or expanding into new markets. Just something that keeps us going every year, some kind of goal. And so last year we were able to get into the liquor store market by doing more canning and whatnot. So what's really popular right now is what they call mobile canning. It's mobile canning is when a company comes to your establishment with the equipment, and they set up in your brew house and they do all the canning for you. It's very helpful for smaller breweries like myself that doesn't, we don't have the footprint, we don't have the capital to buy all the equipment. And it helps because we don't have to have all that overhead to be able to reach those different markets. Somebody can come in and do it for us for a day, and then we pay them, and I send my sales guy out, and he does the job. So yeah, we for the last I would say at least 3 years, we've been doing keg sales to bars and restaurants. But like I said, now just recently, just 2019, we got into like 4 packs of cans in liquor stores. So, yep.
So that brought up about 2 questions, right? The first one is less industry economics related. I'm just wondering, what is it like to own a brewery? I just feel like that'd be really cool. Like, what's that like?
So I've told multiple people this that have come to me, mainly home brewers, and I have a lot of respect for home brewers because that's where I came from. But it's not as glamorous as what it looks. It's a lot of hard work. It's long hours. Like, it's not unheard of for me to be putting in 16 to 18-hour days. It's a lot of cleaning and sanitizing. Yes, there's a lot of joys to it because you own your own business. You set your own hours somewhat. Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of hard work, but that's not really going to take away the fact that, you got to have fun. You got to enjoy what you do. So us brewers and people in the industry, we make it look really, really fun because it is fun. It is a lot of fun, but it's not as glamorous as what you may seem.
Yeah, I suppose. I mean, that's what it's like to be a small business owner after all, right? Long hours.
Correct. Yep.
It's good that you.
Yeah, I mean, I would never push anyone away from pursuing it because it's a great industry to be in, especially right now. Everyone in this industry has been, for the most part, very friendly and welcomes you with open arms because it's kind of it's one of those industries that there's a lot of camaraderie and we look to be the best state-wise, not necessarily the best individual brewery. In Minnesota, we want to be the best state when it comes to craft beer. So we work together and we help each other out in that aspect. So it's a really unique, really fun industry to be in. But we kind of all have the same mentality of it's a lot more glamorous looking than it really is.
No, Olivia, I think you have a question.
Okay.
Yeah, so I was wondering about like how the distribution works. So is that the kind of thing where you find like a branch of liquor stores and they say, we'll sell this amount of beer? Or is it a contract thing where they say, we'll sell it till it's out and then you give us more? Or like, how does that work?
So there's a couple different things. So as far as Hayes Public House goes, we self-distribute. So we do everything ourselves. We've invested into self-distribution, if you want to look at it that way. So we got our own like company van, and I have a sales guy, and so that's basically the gist of it. However, so now you make the product, you got your sales guy, you got your vehicle, and then he goes out and he just makes connections, and it's a lot of making connections and just showing your face and stopping in at places and saying, hey, we're so-and-so, we got this product, would you like to try a sample? So it's a lot of face-to-face time interaction. So as you can imagine right now, FaceTime is pretty hard to get out there and sell beer. There's some liquor stores that have closed because of, COVID-19 or whatever. So that means our beer's not selling on the shelves. So it's hard right now, but things will turn around. But that's typically the way that like our distribution works, is a lot of FaceTime and just going out there and putting yourself out there. The other way is larger breweries in Minnesota will sign on with a distributor or a distribution company, and they will sign contracts with them. I don't know what these contracts all entail. I think vaguely they sign on for an X amount of beer, and the distribution company invests in their company or something like that. And the distribution company is then guaranteed that much beer to sell to the liquor stores. So I've heard horror stories with signing on with distributors. And that's why we choose to stay out of it, and we do our own self-distributing.
Justine, go ahead.
What would you say was your biggest struggle, like starting your company, and what's your biggest struggle now?
Good one. The biggest struggle starting, I would have to say, would be finding a location. I think for most like retail, when you're dealing face-to-face with customers in different retail settings and whatnot, location is the biggest thing. And so we struggled finding the perfect spot in downtown Buffalo. We went from building to building to building to building. We almost signed a lease. And that would have been a nightmare because I started getting pretty desperate at that point. I'm really glad I didn't sign a lease with them. But yeah, I would have to say picking a building for sure was our hardest. People, I think, would think that the finances and the money issue would be the hardest thing. But going back to talking about my mentor who was in the industry, he said something to me that really stuck with me, which was, if you get up every single day and you show passion for what you want to do, and you show other people your passion, that money will follow. And I did that. And, I thought he was full of crap, but it really worked. Talking to banks and people that were willing to finance me and the city, if you show passion and you're determined, it really does work. So the money thing wasn't that big of an issue, but location was by far the hardest. What was the second part of the question? Sorry.
What is your biggest struggle now, like running your business?
I think not just for me, but for any entrepreneur, the biggest struggle as you continue, and I think this can go along the lines of the biggest lesson, is you have to learn to adapt to the changing markets and the changing trends. You can't stay idle. What's happening around the world right now is a perfect example. So we've done some things. A lot of breweries have done some things just to learn how to adapt. And sometimes it's tough because you have your core values and what your business is about, and you don't need to sacrifice those things, but you need to learn to adapt and change with the markets, and that is tough sometimes. Good one.
One question I saw on here that was provided by the students was determining the price of your product. So what did you have to kind of think about when you figured out what you were going to charge customers for individual sales, for your distribution to liquor stores or restaurants with your kegs? What factors did you have to consider, especially thinking of like supply and demand? What did you need to consider when coming up with a price?
I think traditionally most businesses, they always have that laid out, cost of goods or, whatever, to figure out, their retail price or whatever wholesale prices. For us, we've been pretty fortunate enough there's so many breweries and so many people in this industry that have been helpful that you can kind of go off of other people's product and what they're doing. And, like I said, part of that, actually, I didn't say it, sorry, but part of that distribution, going back to that question about distribution or whatever, part of Jake's job going out there too is just looking at customers' prices and seeing what we're competing up against, and so that's kind of how we base our prices. It's nice to have so many breweries around that we can kind of look at, what are they selling this for? And like I said, there's that camaraderie. Like we just now got into crawlers. I didn't know what to sell them for. So one of my buddies who owns Iyer Brewing in Elk River, he's just like, well, this is what we sell them for. But that's kind of how it worked. Because a lot of times in this industry, we're using the same malt, we're using the same yeast. Obviously, there's going to be some different ingredients and whatever, and some different cost differences. But for the most part, it's malt, it's yeast, it's water, and hops. So you can kind of base your prices on the market around you and go off of that. Not always, but yeah.
So would you say it's more helpful to have more like small business breweries around you than it is to like compete against them? Is that what you're getting at?
Yes, and that's where I go back to, like, again, this is a very unique industry in that, we don't necessarily look at it as competition. And we've seen, going back to, let's start from the beginning. So going back to 2013, when we opened up, we were the only brewery out here. We were Buffalo's first and only brewery ever in history. And we were Wright County's first brewery since like pre-prohibition. So there was nobody out here. I was all alone doing our thing. And that was hard because there was so many breweries in the Twin Cities at that time. And so it was hard to get people to travel out. But what I saw as breweries started popping up around us is people started, they were more willing to travel out of the cities and travel out to these different breweries and make a day of it. So they're doing brewery tours and brewery hopping and such. So I would have to honestly say, yeah, it's really helped us having breweries around us. Plus there's other people closer to you now in the industry that can help you out if you need help with something. We've helped people, they've helped us. It's nice. Yeah.
What do you do then to appeal to your customers? How do you advertise to them? How do you get information to them? What do you do, or what kind of input do you take from them to then incorporate into your products or your sales or kind of anything within your business?
Since we started, it's always pretty much strictly just been social media. Advertising, honestly, advertising is super expensive. And it's an expense that it's necessary, but if you can avoid it by finding other creative outlets, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, whatever, stuff that's free to you, use it. There's not that many people that are using, they're not reading newspapers as much anymore. So I haven't done anything in newspapers, no ads or anything like that. It's expensive. Yeah, I mean, we've done things where we've teamed up with other local businesses downtown to like collab, promote each other, which is nice because that cuts down on cost and you're working with another business downtown, and that's a big thing. But I mean, social media by far, I would think, has been our biggest outlet. And again, it's free. So, and everyone's on it, and everyone is on it all day long, especially now. So, but you got to be creative, you got to do different things. So.
Other questions?
Yeah.
So like with all of your startup costs, how long did it take to start turning a profit?
Um, so that's a tricky question because when I first started this place, my wife and I agreed that I would be allowed to start this place if I could continue to pay myself the same wage or more as my previous job. And so since day one, again, going back to this industry is kind of a weird anomaly that it's booming. So we were turning a profit by the first week. But I can't speak for every business. You know, I know quite a few different business owners that struggle. You know, I'm in the red. Oh, I'm in the black. I'm in the red. I'm in the black. Fortunately for us, I've never been in the red. Fingers crossed. Times are different now. Yeah, times are different now. We're struggling now, but again, going back to, you got to learn how to adapt. You got to learn to get creative and figure out how to keep income coming in.
Go ahead, Andrew.
Oh, wait,
Sorry,
who?
Andrew, and then Justine.
Oh, a question. Oh, I remember. Okay, so I see behind you there, you have a tap room, and you can kind of see the like different selections you offer, and that brought to mind the question of when you are designing, or so like let's say you make a new brew, you call it whatever you want. Let's just say you call it, I don't know, like just the green brew or whatever, right? You know, what comes along with like how you advertise it, right? So like Guinness, their classic symbol is the harp, right?
Yep.
How do you just come up with like what you're gonna do? And do you also like, is that an aspect of like when you're distributing your brews and when you're doing your advertising, like do you think about that when you're making your product?
Yeah. For me, it all starts with the style of the beer and what I want that beer to kind of portray. Like in my head, what do I think of when I think of a pale ale? Because we're an Irish pub, and we advertise as an Irish pub or a pub. I don't even say Irish pub anymore. I just say we're a pub, because there's many aspects of Irish, English, Scottish. You know, we're just a pub. We have a lot of that Irish motif, but it's just a collaboration of that culture, and that kind of beer that I like to drink has been mostly British beer, and that goes back to my homebrew days. And so with the beer names and how I come up with that stuff, well, in the beginning, how I came up with it is we stuck to our motif of what we were about. So a lot of the beer names are in Gaelic or Irish, just to fit our concept. We've now, over time, expanded on that, and I've allowed some of my workers to do their own beers and come up with their own names and get creative and things like that. So I've kind of handed it over to, like, we're doing collaboration beers with other breweries, and so we work together on names. But it's interesting because the industry is getting so creative right now that when we do a beer or a collaboration beer or whatever, it becomes its own character. So like you think of Guinness, like you know, for instance, Guinness, it's like a living, breathing thing. Like Guinness is Guinness, you know, like, you know, Guinness. But and so a lot of these things, not all these beers and beer names or whatever, they become their own characters and with their own backstory and whatnot, and it just fits our motif. So we have a beer called Trianoida, which Trianoida stands for the Trinity or the Holy Trinity. With that one, I had three different brewers, or there was three of us brewers to represent each point of the Trinity. We used three different types of hops. And so you just come up with your own story and your own meaning to that, and it becomes its own character. It takes on life. The beer takes on, this persona or whatever. So it's all about getting creative. Yeah, that's always in the back of my head. When I start a new recipe or come up with a new beer, what do I want it to be? What do I want the story to be? And that goes along with a lot of everything that we've done in our pub, is that we're not going to hang it on our wall if it doesn't have a story. And that's what makes our place, it gives us that homey feel. Everything has a meaning here. When people come in, they just feel like they're at home or they're in their own living room. So it's not an Applebee's where we just throw a bunch of crap on the wall. This looks cool, Well, I'll take you guys on a virtual tour in a little bit.
Christine and then Olivia.
I don't know if Jen's seen it. Have you seen it, Jen?
What?
The pub.
Yes, I've seen the pub. It's all new.
My was in the time of this when everybody's at home, like delivering anything, or how are you doing business like right now?
Yep. Yeah, that's a good question. So the governor has allowed us to stay essential. And so right now we're doing online sales or purchase online, and then people come up to the door, or we do curbside pickup with growlers. Jake, can you hand me a growler? You guys know what a growler looks like?
Is that those things that, like the giant mugs, I guess?
Good answer. Like, act like you don't know. You're underage. So this is a 64-ounce growler. It's a half gallon, obviously. So we do these for off sale. And then going back again to the whole learning to adapt to the changing markets and whatever, growlers for us right now aren't going to cut it. So we had really no choice but to get into another outlet to allow us to have more stuff to offer people. And so it's really weird because it's not really the time to invest in new equipment and stuff with money being so tight and everything, but these are called crowlers with a C, and they are 750 milliliter. And we're able to, in the state of Minnesota, we are only able to off sale these two sizes. So all our other size cans, like 16-ounce cans, 12-ounce cans, 12-ounce bottles, all that stuff, has to be wholesaled to liquor stores or bars and restaurants. We cannot sell those off the premise here in the state of Minnesota. The Minnesota Craft Brewers Guild, which I'm a part of, is looking to, at least for right now, get the governor to lift the regulations, at least temporary, so that we have other outlets of making money. But that hasn't happened yet. So, and I didn't really want to wait for that possibility to happen. So that's why we got into these larger cans, which we're allowed to do. Like I said, it's a little weird because it's a weird time to invest in something new right now, but we don't really have a choice. We have to do it. So yeah.
Yeah, go ahead with your question. Go ahead, Olivia.
Okay, so I guess my question is not including this right now because this is kind of a weird time, but like after all this is over, do you think this boom will continue? Do you think breweries will stop popping up? Do you think like the business will continue to expand? Like for breweries as a whole, kind of what do you predict?
I think it will. I think it will continue booming. I think that not just people in the industry itself, but the customers that we've been able to build relationships with over the, however many years. I think after this is all over with, hopefully soon, you'll see that camaraderie and that support come back and continue. I mean, people are already itching to get out. The support that we've been shown just in our own community has been insane. And so, yeah, I think the industry is going to be, I think we'll be fine. I don't want to get too ahead of myself, but there's that saying where it's like, well, alcohol does best in a recession. But I don't know, it's hard to say, but I really think everything is going to bounce back and we're going to be fine, especially in this industry. We have way too many people that support us, and way too many people that enjoy not just craft beer, but the community of it, the community aspect of it, and the just being in the tap room, in different tap rooms and stuff. Just yeah, that community aspect of it. So I think we'll be okay.
Andrew, why don't you go with your question, and then we will start the tour after the question.
All right. He answered the first one just there. My second one was just more of a curiosity question. How much does a keg go for?
It depends on the beer. Depends on the beer. I mean, how many people are going to be at your
My party? Like, let's just say hypothetically.
And do you got cash or check?
Let's say I take the Holy Trinity one because we talked about that one already. All right.
Yeah. So we wholesale those kegs for, I think, Jake, what do we do the New England IPA? 160 for that one. Okay.
Is that just like, the reason I'm asking is this is like a general knowledge thing. Just like, is that like what a typical keg would go for then?
I think typical kegs go for anything, 80 on up. I've seen breweries, with some really rare, expensive beers. Not to get into the whole brewing aspect and what makes a rare beer and this and that, but I've seen kegs go on up to $200-300 a keg. But yeah, I would say generally kegs go from anywhere from $90, $80 to even $80 to, $150, $170.
Well, there we go. Good to know. Well, that answers my question.
Yeah, and then that's for your basic, half barrel keg, but there's different size kegs too. So.
Oh. All right. Thank you.
Yeah, why don't we go ahead and start the tour?
Okay. It's hard because my screen is so small, I can't see what I'm actually looking at. Oh, here we go. All right, so actually I'll take you through the front door. Go this way, don't look. All right, so the front door, you got the lake out there. Jake. Oh. Let's see. Can you hear? I can't hear you guys, so.
Yeah, they're all muted. We can hear you. That's nice.
Oh, okay. All right, and then this is the pub. Oh, wait, I can change this around. There, yay. So this is the tap room or the pub. This is where we do music. The music corner. All the chairs and everything are cleaned and put away. Here's the bar. My dad built the bar and the back bar. All of our taps. Over here, more tap room. Merchandise. And the brewery. This is my office right here. More tanks. Back here. And then our walk-in cooler, which is, let's see, this has all our kegs in it. Okay. And then those are our beer taps that are on the other side of the bar, or on the other side of the wall, on the back bar. That's it.